FPL Game Week 35 is just about in the books and your boy's gone and done it again. Another -12 take and you thought it was over, but I had one left in me and I've deployed it in Game Week 35, and I've not just done the -12, no, I have also played my bench boost and it's looking like it's going to pay off, and that is a nice feeling. That is a nice feeling, because in a season of taking risks, in a season of gambles that haven't paid off, for one to come off towards the end, it's nice. It gives a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism for next season, and the thought that we might actually be able to salvage something from this disaster of a campaign. And really, it's been longer than one season. It's been longer that I have been struggling. It is because last year on the run-in, when I went to close out my mini league and I started making suboptimal decisions just to match my rival's team and deny him the opportunity to catch me, the reason I did that is because my picks weren't paying off. My choices weren't doing so well. So for me, I mean, it's been about 39, 40, 41 game weeks of struggle in this game. 41 game weeks to rediscover my identity. And have I done that this week? I don't know. It might just be a final fling. But I took the -12 and I played the bench boost. And I'll bring my team up. Obviously, the game week's still to go. There's still the Chelsea-Forest match. And, of course, for my team, the big one is Man City-Everton. I still have 4 players to play in that match, including my captain, which is Nico O'Reilly. I took another gamble. It's not just the transfers. It's not just the bench boost. It's also the captaincy. I am going down swinging this season. I am putting myself in a position where I might get a little bit lucky. I might make those big gains that I need to make quickly and desperately. But so far, like, you look at my team and look, that's not a serious bench boost. I can hear I can feel the heat rising from those FPL aficionados who say you can't put Haaland, Bruno Fernandes and Ollie Watkins on your bench. That's cheating. That is not real. That is not how the game works. But I mean, I could make an argument for all of them being on my bench, really, but look, if I was to play a proper bench boost, it would have been Dewsbury Hall. It might have been Kelleher. I mean, Dubravka was playing Leeds, Kelleher was playing West Ham, who apparently because they're going down, apparently West Ham are suddenly going to become prime Barcelona in attack. Jared Bowen is Lionel Messi, so why would I play a goalkeeper against such an indestructible force of FPL power? Why would I do that when I could play against a team that has pretty much secured their safety next season, just gone out the cup, nothing left to play for? That would be the argument, but of course, for fairness' sake, we'll say it would have been Dubravka. It definitely would have been Dewsbury Hall. And then the defenders, it's a tough one because, people who don't want me to be a success would say, oh, you would have definitely benched Rodon. But would I? I don't think so. And I'll tell you for why. Because if I would definitely have benched Rodon, I wouldn't have played the bench boost, would I? If I'm taking all these hits, I wouldn't have sold Van Dijk, who was guaranteed to start, and kept Rodon. Because, you need 15 players on the bench boost. So if I would definitely have benched Rodon, a defender against Burnley, why would I bench a defender against Burnley? I wouldn't have done. It probably would have been Mukiele and Hill on my bench. And you might say I'm bullshitting you there, but I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. I am being honest with you, like I always am. It's like my man Gary said on the pubcast, why would you bench a defender against Burnley? They're the worst team in the league, apart from arguably Wolves. So, so if we're looking at it objectively, it's a 23-point bench boost with Dewsbury Hall to come. And I mean, that is a success. But you could say, even if I'll say, oh no, I definitely would have benched Rodon because I didn't think he would start, then I wouldn't have played the bench boost. So, but the thing is, whether the bench boost is a success or a failure is irrelevant for me, because I did not use the bench boost as a means to gain points. I know that sounds a bit silly, but what I used the bench boost for is to cover an overhaul of my team for the final 4 game weeks. And, that may not be the best way to play a bench boost. And maybe I've got a bit lucky with the Mukiele and Hill Halls because, you can't legislate for Mukiele scoring because, fair enough, he's got a few. The power of Mukiele compels me. And, it did. I brought in Bruno Guimaraes and he got the assist as well. 17 points from Mukiele. Come on! I can't believe I'm celebrating Sunderland. What has this season degenerated into? But for me, this is about 4 game weeks. My bench boost wasn't about a single game week. And you could argue that it was a failure for me because I would definitely have started all the players that got the points and I definitely would have benched all the players that didn't. And I could argue the complete opposite. I definitely would have benched all the players that got the points. It doesn't matter because this is a 4 game week bench boost because this bench boost is to cover getting O'Reilly in over Virgil, getting Haaland in over Havertz, getting Bruno Guimaraes in over Harry Wilson. Now, Virgil, Harry Wilson and Kai Havertz scored 3 points between them this weekend. Bruno Guimaraes got 6. So, he's already outscored he's doubled the score of those 3 players already with Haaland, Shirky, because I swapped Semenyo to Shirky and Captain O'Reilly to come. Now, Semenyo he was the risk. He was the risky move because he's a very dangerous player. Shirky is the assister and Semenyo's the goal scorer. But if I'm playing the bench boost, I can't take the risk. And Semenyo subbed off early in his last league game, wasn't in the squad for the cup. Why take the risk when I could take a 4-point hit? Maybe it'll backfire. Maybe Semenyo will score 15 goals tonight and, Ryan Shirky will get a red card and score a hat-trick of own goals. You just don't know in this game. But if I'm trying to make it a success, why not get in the differential who will most likely start over the template who maybe won't, who there's no evidence he will, So that's the gamble. As it stands, I'm on 57 points, minus 12, so 45 points, still 15 points above the game week average. Lovely stuff. And again, of course, with Haaland, Shirky, Dewsbury Hall and Captain O'Reilly to come later today. How will they do? I don't know. We just don't know. And there won't be a video afterwards because it is, of course, the World Snooker Final tonight. And what we're seeing is Sean Murphy versus Wu Yeezer. And, for me, really, when you look at snooker, and I know I talked a bit about snooker last time, but when you look at the way the game is going, it is quite reminiscent of FPL in a different way from just like last time I talked about having to be more like Ronnie O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan only became the true greatest once he learned how and when to negate his base instincts and to play the Selby safeties, when to engage in the safety game. And we'll talk about that a little bit for my plans for the rest of the season. But when you look at the snooker final tonight, and last year, Zhao won the title, first Chinese player to win the title. This tonight, Wu Yize very likely could become, he's got the advantage, very likely could become the second Chinese winner of the World Championships back to back. And if we look at the Chinese, and you could say this is racial stereotyping, FPL Nightmare, you could say this is, this is prejudicial. It's not meant this way. But if you look at the Chinese takeover of snooker, the way they have taken the lessons of, the Western society and the way that they have incorporated them into their training, their snooker halls, how they play the game. Look, the Chinese are sensational players. Zhao last year, Wu Yize this year, these are great players. They are elevating the game to another level. The potting power, the scoring, it's a different kettle of fish, much like the solvers in FPL. And you see where the comparison is being made, because if we go back-to-back Chinese World Championships, people will say, that, you know, the old school, the likes of O'Sullivan, John Higgins, Mark Williams, that they can't compete with the new breed of snooker player, the new breed of FPL manager. And then you get Sean Murphy, and he's still hanging in there. I think he's beaten a Chinese three Chinese players so far in the tournament. He's up against Wu Yize in the final, and he is a magician. He is a bit of a maverick on the table. And is he the representation of the maverick manager, of the non-template FPL manager? I don't know. I don't even think it really matters who wins tonight with regards to FPL, but the point is there that you can take on the new breed, you can take on the new way of playing the game, and you can still have a very successful season, you can still have a very successful campaign, you can still be within touching distance of the world title. And that is giving me hope as well. So I'm looking forward to that final tonight. It's why I'm doing my video so early. I'm back at work tomorrow. I've had a nice week off after my 24 hours shifts in 7 days. I've had a nice week off. Back at work tomorrow. Don't really want to be, but it is what it is. You know, we all need to work. We all need to put ourselves in a position to enjoy things, to be able to be creative, like I like to think I'm doing here. And, you know, and I'm going to have to be creative a little bit in the running. Another lovely pivot. I'm quite good at these pivots, I think, some of the time. Sometimes I'm a bit woeful, but, you know, it's really good. And I'm going to get into my team in a minute. I just want to say I'm on the pubcast on Wednesday. It's me, there's Nick Trigger, there is Gary, of course, and FPL Punk, who I am a big advocate for joining the pubcast crew on a permanent basis next year. But Gary's umming and ahhing, oh, do I keep the pubcast going in its current form? Can the pubcast be successful next season? I'm thinking, come on now, Gary. You're the man that brings everyone together. You're the man that every Wednesday, every Saturday, you give us a place to vent, to discuss strategy, to showcase alternative approaches in a way that most FPL channels don't. The FPL community would be an awful lot weaker if Gary Beer decided, Dr. Gary Beer decided not to continue the pubcast next season, but I think he will. You know, I am not above bullying the bloke into doing it in a nice way. Sometimes you have to save people from the say you can't save people, you can only love them. I disagree, because I think Gary Beer can be saved from his wanting to hang it up impulses, and we can make the pubcast stronger than ever next season. And part of that involves myself getting this strategy correct. You know, I need the platform. I've had a year of being mocked by the pubcast crowd this year. No, to be fair, most of them have been quite supportive. I don't really understand why people are so supportive of me. You know, I see a lot of people get a lot of grief in the comments on YouTube. I see a lot of people get a lot of stick. Maybe people just feel sorry for me. I don't know. I really appreciate it, though. It's lovely that people are so nice to me, but I do feel like my experience on YouTube is very, it's not normal, and it's in the best way. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it is because I am a middle-aged fool. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. But it's lovely. So when I say I get mocked by the pubcast crew, that's just not true, really. I get mocked by the crew, not by the audience. The audience is always quite wonderful with me. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to going on the pubcast on Wednesday. After I've lifted my suspension, I suspended Gary from having me on his channel for a month because of a misleading title. If you remember in Game Week 32, he said, Gary hits the wild card live on stream, and he did not hit the wild card live on stream. And I said, I will not put up with you misleading the audience, Gary Beer. I am not coming on. And he says, oh, it had a question mark at the end, and what it had was what is known as an interrobang, which is a question mark, exclamation mark combination. And for me, that is an interrobang is used to make a shocking statement that people will question why. It is not there to indicate a question being asked. And I believe Dr. Beer, with his, PhD, is well aware of how basic grammar works. So I suspended him from having me on his channel for a month. But that suspension is lifted and I'm back on the pubcast. So that'll be good. And I'm still not learnt the lessons of conciseness. I'm just rambling a bit now. But, today is a big day in the Nightmare household because it is, of course, May Day. And in Penrith, where I live, there is a May Day parade. There's a fair, there's rides, there's bands playing in town. And I should be in there now, Normally I'd be down there with my wife and the kids, taking them on the rides, spending all the money. But now the kids are at that age where they're like, oh no, we'll just go with our friends. We don't need you, Miss Daddy Nightmare. They don't call me Daddy Nightmare, they call me Big Papa Sparks. And that's a story I'm not telling you about. But I said, oh, Big Papa Sparks, we need to go with our friends this year. They're having a lot of fun. But so you don't need to come down this year. And, I'm a little bit pleased by that because I don't really like big parades and all that sort of thing. And I could not be bothered. Not when the World Snooker Final's on. But, they said, oh, no, we'll go out with our mates. It's all right. You watch the snooker. Just give us some money for the rides. And I'm like, you cheeky little swines. But yeah, they've got plenty of money. And they're off in it. It's a big day, I'm laughing and joking, but I'm nervous about it because, it's the first time that they've really done something like this. And it's always scary. It's always scary when things change. It's always scary when things evolve and people grow. And, that's what I have to embrace that for next season. And when it comes to the game, I need to embrace that change. I need to, unleash the inner child in me that wants to go into town by himself. And, I also have to unleash the middle-aged man in me that wants to let that inner child do that. And that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to practice now. Game week 36 coming up at the weekend. I've not got any plans in place. A lot of people say Crystal Palace. I might take a punt on Munoz. I might get in, Lacroix for the Defcons or, Canvot. I don't know. I don't really fancy Crystal Palace because the minutes aren't there, the performances aren't there, and the motivation just isn't there. And to be honest, I actually think they'll lose both games, and I just think there's a better upside. Like, you look at my team, and for game week 36, it's Keller. Do you know what? I do apologise if you're watching this or listening to this on Spotify. I didn't actually read my team out earlier for the points I got. And so it'll have to remain a mystery to you. Just know that I think it was something like 150 points already. No, it wasn't. But I will read my team out for game week 36 for you now. It is Keller in goal against Man City. Then it's Gabriel against West Ham. O'Reilly with a double. Hill against Fulham. Then it's Fernandes against Sunderland, Dewsbury Hall against Palace, Sherky with a double, Haaland with a double, Rodgers and Watkins against Burnley, and Bruno Guimaraes, Mukiele, Thiago Rodon on the bench in whatever order. And I look at this and I think, what is the best way to improve this team? And I'm thinking, is it a hit time? I'm not above taking hits for every game week, just as a point of principle. But the problem is, I look at that team and I think anyone that I want to take out comes with risk. I do want to... we all saw Saka and Gyökeres, and oh my, if I had brought in Gyökeres instead of Haaland on that -12, I'd be buzzing. I'd be flying through the skies right now. It does make me pine a little bit for Havertz because, I did have Havertz originally and I feel like I got a bit con there, but it is what it is. But I look at that team and I think all of that starting team could get returns. I don't want Rodgers, I don't want Watkins. I could take a hit and just sell Rodgers and Watkins for Gyökeres and Saka. word was a bit difficult to get out my mouth there. I don't know what happened there. Saka and Gyökeres for Rodgers and Watkins. I've got the money for that. And it's only a -4 point. But the problem is Villa lads, they play Burnley. Burnley are woeful. So, so Rodgers and Watkins, I am never getting Morgan Rodgers in my FPL team again. He is one of those players that just contrives to find a way to frustrate you every game week, because you either own him and all he does is he just fights all match to get that yellow card, or you don't own him and he starts scoring 15 pointers every week. He is a nightmare player to own, but you can't really sell attackers before Burnley. It's just pure strategy, you know. And hopefully, there is a very good possibility that they could be out of Europe. Let's hope Forest beat them, and then they have to qualify through the league, because they still need points. Brentford could still catch them, and the goal difference is level. So if they need a win, get that win against Burnley, maybe that's it. Just keep them two, or sell them for Saka and Gyökeres or some combination. The other thing I'm thinking is actually selling my keeper, and that would be Kelleher, and I'd probably just bring in Raya. And, this is what I mean about sometimes you just have to play a safety shot in this game. Sometimes you have to just tuck in behind the green. Is it exciting to bring in Raya? No. But what does it do? It covers that second Arsenal defender. It limits that damage. And I've still got plenty of differentials in there who can get the points. Look at my differentials. Not many have the double Villa attack. Not many have Dewsbury Hall. Not many have Bruno Guimaraes. Not many have Shirky, I mean, a few have Shirky, but don't get me wrong. But it's not a lot. I've got a lot of differentials in there. Thiago, even, his ownership keeps dropping, although I wouldn't play him against Man City. So I have the differentials in there. And I could bring in David Raya. And, because it's not just about this week. When Raya plays West Ham, he's then got Burnley, he's then got Crystal Palace. Whereas Kelleher has got Man City, then he's got Palace, fine, but then it's Liverpool. I just don't think a keeper for two of them 3 games is a good one. So that is the thinking. Maybe Raya. I mean, I could bring in a different keeper. I just don't see. The only reason I'd bring in a different keeper is if I wanted to keep Saka and Gyökeres open for next week, for game week 37. Because in game week 37, again, I've got a great team. I actually have a benching dilemma, because I could bench, do you know what it is? I'll just be straight. I'm trying to blag it. And what's happened is I've actually put Saka and Gyökeres in my team on the planner, on the FPL.team planner. And now I can't remember who else it would have been. Oh, Rodgers and Watkins. Yeah, so, game week 37, if I have Saka and Gyökeres, then I have a choice. Do I bench Thiago? Do I bench Dewsbury Hall? Do I bench Bruno Guimaraes? So then, if I'm having to bench one of those players, is it even worth selling both Watkins and Rodgers when I could just bench one of them in who do they play? Liverpool. They play Liverpool. I could just sell one of them. Say I sell Rodgers for Saka, I could bench Watkins, play Thiago and Haaland, along with that 5-man midfield, and also have Raya in goal. And I mean, that looks very strong as well. But then the chance of double attack double Arsenal attack, Saka Gyökeres against Burnley in a potential title winning match. I mean, that's an exciting prospect as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's the problem that I've got this week. I could take out Kelleher, but then it locks out that double Arsenal attack potential if I get Raya. I could take out Rodgers or Watkins. And if I take out Watkins for Gyökeres and Havertz is fit, will Havertz start? If I take out Rodgers for Saka, will Saka remain fit? They have Europe in the week as well. And, you know, obviously I'd wait until see after Europe what happens. But these are the sort of dilemmas. And it feels a bit strange. So maybe I just go with Dean Henderson in goal. Get a double game week keeper. And look, the fixtures for Palace after that, I know great shakes. Brentford's not too bad, and then it's Arsenal to finish. But I could get Henderson in goal against Everton and Man City this week. Then it's Brentford next week. And then I could play Dubravka against Wolves in game week 38. So, I mean, that's an option. And then that leaves up open double Arsenal attack. Don't mind that so much. But these are the things. And, you know, now, as the season draws to a close, we have to look at these possibilities. What risk do we want to engage in? Right now, I am on the verge of the top million again. Whatever happens this week, unless Haaland drastically outscores Nico O'Reilly, which is always a possibility, whatever happens, I've taken a -12 and I've got a green arrow. Yes, I've used a bench boost to cover it, but that's all right. That's what these trips are for. They're not always an offensive trip. You know, I would say using a free hit and a blank is quite a defensive way to use that trip. I would prefer to play it in a big double, get the best players, but we don't get enough big doubles anymore. The bench boost, obviously you can play that in a big double, or you can use it in a defensive way to reshape a squad like I have done. And, you know, however you shake it out, it's paid off. You know, I've taken a 12-point hit and my bench, and you can argue about which defenders would have been on the bench, but whichever pair you put on my bench, it's paid off the hit. And now I've got Nico O'Reilly, now I've got Haaland, now I've got Sherky, now I have got Bruno Guimaraes. Now I've got a team I am excited to look at, and I have got hope and optimism for the final 3.2 game weeks, you know, and that's worth a bench boost. That's a bench boost that does that inspires that hope and optimism is more important than a bench boost that gets 5 extra points. And really, who was on your bench doesn't matter anyway, because the point of the bench boost is you don't have a bench, you know. People, you lot can argue among yourselves as to who my actual bench would have been. I don't really care, because for me, it was about improving the squad and getting the green arrow, getting back into that top million. And I have done that. I have given myself the best possible chance for the run-in, for the double game week next week. And now we'll just have to see what happens. And, you know, I think it's about to start raining and I'm not using my waterproof camera. So I'm going to call it there. And, you know, let's hope it goes well tonight. Let's hope Nico O'Reilly gets a brace and a clean sheet and Erling Haaland doesn't do anything, you know. Maybe a goal. I don't know. But there's decisions to make in the weeks ahead. You know, do I tuck in behind the green this week and then go for the long red next week? I don't know. Can the takeover of the modern player be stopped by the old school Mavericks? Not this season, but maybe next. We will have to see. Either way, it'll be fun to play. It'll be fun to watch. And, you know, the game will be driven forward. And hopefully I can be part of making the game better and reminding people that the merits of taking chances. Because I've took a chance this week and it has paid off. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.